Let's get some analysis from Republican Senator of Arkansas, Tom Cotton. Senator, you heard what the president had to say. You were critical of him earlier today for a tepid response. He's clearly upped it a bit. 2 blocking sanctions on Russian banks, including their military bank. Is that enough?
No, John, unfortunately, it's not enough. I mean, at least it's a step in the right direction. I wouldn't even call it half measure, though. It's probably more like a quarter measure. Sanctions on a couple banks and some oligarchs. I've been calling for months now for the kind of punishing sanctions that Joe Biden and Western leaders keep promising but never revealing. Permanently canceling the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, not just shuffling some bureaucratic paper around its review. Imposing sanctions on Russia's oil and gas sectors, its mineral and mining sectors, the critical industries in that country. Clamping down on its financial industry and its access to the international banking systems. These are the kind of sanctions that are called for now, not these quarter measures that were just announced or that Berlin announced earlier today about Nord Stream 2. I mean, unfortunately, the administration spent the first 24 hours debating whether to even call this invasion an invasion. And the president took 80 minutes to come out for his own press conference, which doesn't exactly project confidence and certainty and resolution to people watching in Moscow. So much more is called for right now, John, than what we just heard.
Okay, so we'll see if that happens. The president said, to put it simply, Russia just announced that it is carving out a big chunk of Ukraine, saying very definitively, to your point on the wavering of whether this was an invasion or not, saying this is the beginning of a Russia invasion of Ukraine, and then announced, I'm going to begin to impose sanctions that go beyond those implemented in 2014. Do you believe anything there that the president said will bother the Kremlin, Senator?
Again, Sandra, I'm afraid not. Even that phrasing that he used, the beginning of an invasion, right. It is an invasion. It's not the beginning of anything. It's an invasion. Vladimir Putin and Russia's leaders have made clear that they view not just the territory under the control of the proxy military forces they've been backing for 8 years is now separate from Ukraine, but territory that Ukraine controls. That's why they're putting heavy armored soldiers and vehicles and weapons into those 2 provinces in eastern Ukraine, because they're preparing to invade even deeper into Ukraine. That's why they have all those troops stationed in Belarus, just north of the capital city of Kyiv. That's why they have so many of their Navy ships in the Black Sea to seize the Black Sea coast. Ukraine has been invaded. President Biden and his Western counterparts promised for months swift and severe sanctions when that happened. And in the first 24 hours, that's not what we've seen. It's far from what we've seen. And I suspect Vladimir Putin is going to be emboldened to take further aggression against Ukraine.
So, Senator, the president's threat was if you go in further incursions or further invasion of Ukraine, we're going to hit you with more sanctions. So maybe Vladimir Putin sees the light, let's just say, for talking purposes here. He sees the light and says, I'm not going to invade the rest of Ukraine. How do you get him out of where he is now? They tried to get him out of Crimea. He wouldn't budge. His response was to annex the place. What's to stop him from doing the same thing there in Donetsk and Luhansk and say, okay, that's it. That's as far as I'm going, but I'm never leaving?
Well, John, unfortunately, I just don't think he will see the light. That he can already see the kind of timid response that the West has mounted. The Prime Minister of Italy, Mario Draghi, just a couple of days ago said that we shouldn't have any sanctions on Russia's energy sector because Italy is almost as beholden to Russia as Germany is for its energy exports. That's why it's so important that we put those sanctions on the table now, at least at a minimum, announce what they will be, even if they don't have the political will to impose them now, because the silence to Vladimir Putin is deafening. He can see the internal divisions among the West, and he is going to continue to exploit those divisions.
What also struck me, and something that we talked about in advance of the president's words, was what he will say to reassure Americans that this conflict and this invasion over there won't run up prices much more here. What he's doing about it, he said, we're closely monitoring energy suppliers around the world. And I'm thinking, we're one of them. And we have shown that we are able to supply the amount of energy we need in this country. We are not doing that today to the point where we are now importing oil from foreign nations, including Russia. So why not a stronger message there to the American people, what we're going to do to make sure that those prices don't keep going up? Why didn't he announce that we're going to start pumping more oil?
Well, Sandra, unfortunately, prices at the pump probably are going to go up. But remember, they were going up for the first year of the Biden administration, long before this moment. That inflation is a direct result of the hostility that the Biden administration, really the progressive left in America, has towards oil and gas, which still powers our economy, as much as they might not like that. What we need to do is to continue to invest more in American oil and gas production, take off all the regulatory red tape in terms of producing oil and gas here that the Biden administration has reimposed over the last year. Otherwise, the left is taking us down the path of Germany, which built all those pipelines to Russia, which closed down all of its nuclear power plants, and now they are beholden to a hostile foreign power. That's the last place America should ever be, especially since we don't have to be there, since we're blessed with so much oil and gas in this country to use for our own safety and our own prosperity.
Okay, Senator Tom Cotton with reaction to the president's remarks. Thank you, Senator.